So I'm here today to talk to you about rooftop farming. And I'm going to do that through the lens of my organization, Urban Harvest STL, which is here in St. Louis. And we are a nonprofit that focuses on building resiliency and community in our local food system. We have a network of urban farms in the urban core of St. Louis, so mostly downtown near North Side. How many people in the room are from St. Louis? Okay, so we have quite a few. How many of you have been to the Food Roof Farm? All right, excellent. For those of you who haven't, we're doing a tour there on Thursday through this conference, so if you haven't signed up yet, you can absolutely do that. So we're... I'm sorry, what? Sold out. It's sold out, never mind. Hopefully some of you are coming. If you stick around later, I'm happy to show it to you anyway. So we're most well known for our Food Roof Farm. This is really our flagship project. We started our organization back in 2011, but it really started as a grassroots initiative to start growing food in downtown, and that came to life through the community garden. It was a really easy entry point. It was a great way to get people engaged in growing food in the neighborhood. But what we learned very quickly was there was so much more demand than what we were offering. More people wanted to be able to grow their own food. Some people didn't want to get their hands dirty, but wanted access to that healthy food, or they needed access to that healthy food. So we decided to scale up and grow a larger rooftop farm, and because it was so difficult to find space on the ground in this particular neighborhood, because it's all buildings, we decided to look at rooftops. And coming from architecture, that seemed to make a whole lot of sense to me as well. So that accumulated into the Food Roof Farm, which was built in 2015. It's located about 8 blocks that way. So it's really walkable in the heart of downtown St. Louis. And we designed it as such to be kind of a living laboratory for urban agriculture. This was the first rooftop farm in the city, really in the region, I believe. Chicago is probably the next closest one at that time. So we wanted to kind of incorporate a lot of different growing methods into one space so that we can kind of showcase the versatility of urban agriculture. But this was also for us to be able to experiment, to learn what methods work best, so as we scale up and build more, we're more informed and we can be more efficient and more productive. So we're growing what looks like traditional farm rows on top of a green roof system. We also have raised beds. We have modular containers that we fit into spaces where nothing else will fit. We have edible walls. We have a greenhouse that you unfortunately can't see in this picture. We have pollinator gardens, and we also have a community hub space as well.
How big is it?
It is almost 1/4 of an acre. So we don't even talk in terms of acres. It's like 10,000 square feet. So we're talking micro scale farm here. So growing food on a rooftop is not as easy as just putting soil right onto the roof and planting your seeds, right? So I wanted to kind of show you what's underneath all of that soil. And it's actually a green roof system. It's an extensive green roof system. So it's different built up layers that enable us to be able to grow food successfully. So essentially, first component is you have to have the structural capacity to withstand the weight of saturated soil on this roof. So that's the #1 determining factor around rooftop farming. And once you get past that, you need to have a really good roof membrane. And if it's not good, then you need to replace it because you want to make sure that doesn't leak after you get it going and start growing. So on top of that, the next important layer is really a retention board. So a retention board is exactly what it sounds like. It retains water. So this particular rooftop, we installed the most intense retention board we could find. It's 2.5 inches deep. And the reason for that is twofold. One is because it reduces our potable irrigation needs for our plants. But two, it also mitigates stormwater runoff and flooding issues that are so prevalent in the city. So on this small rooftop, we can capture up to 2.5 inches of rain per storm event. That's a huge amount of water. So we're basically pretty much capturing all of the rainwater that hits that roof over the course of the year. That's almost 2 million gallons of water annually, which is huge. So rooftop farming has a lot of benefits beyond just growing food. When you integrate urban agriculture into architecture, there are a lot of other benefits as well. Yes? Oh, the first picture? Yeah, sure, go ahead. Go ahead, take a picture. So that green roof system that I was just showcasing, that's under the entire roof that you see here. And then in areas that we're growing food, that's where we have our soil on top. I should also mention that the soil we're growing in is not your beautiful black gold soil that you find at Earth Dance, unfortunately. It has to be lightweight for our rooftops. So we have to do a specially blended soil with lightweight aggregate. So it is very different than actually growing in the ground. So since then, we've scaled up and we've built several other rooftops in St. Louis. This is one of them. It's on top of the Kerr Foundation, which is along the riverfront, just about 4 blocks that way. It's a smaller installation of a garden, and it actually originated as a sedum green roof. So that's what a normal green roof is. It's just native adapted plants, usually a lot less soil. And this particular green roof was starting to fail after about a decade. It needed some love, and the owner came to us and said, you know, maybe we should transition to edibles and grow food for a reason. So we started transitioning the sedum green roof into edibles, and we also leveraged some of the vertical space they had and installed a pretty large edible wall on that farm. So this is a good example of kind of transitioning older sedum green roofs into productive roofs that actually supply food for people. And then last year, we were also invited by Busch Stadium, where the Cardinals play, just down the street, to put an urban agriculture installation there. So on their top deck, the 3rd level, we have some hydroponic towers, and this year we're actually expanding. So if anybody's going to the opening game, look for our garden. We're going to have about 70 modular planters as well. And the idea there is to just scale up year to year and really get urban agriculture out there. Like, this is more for showcasing it and just getting people excited and saying, hey, if we can grow food at the stadium, then you can really grow food anywhere. And then just last weekend, we started our newest rooftop farm, which we're really excited about. It's called the Zach Building. It's owned by the Kransberg Arts Foundation. So this is a really cool collaboration between 2 organizations where they wanted to build out an event space, but they wanted it to have some kind of meaning and mission behind it. So they brought us into the mix and said, can you produce a food roof up here? So it's a really great project. We're taking a totally different slant this time around. We're not growing the green roof system. Instead, we're doing a modular crate system. And there's a lot of reasons for that. One, it's a lot more economical, so they like that idea a lot better. But 2, we can actually pick up these crates and move them around as we need to. So if something is failing in a certain area and the sunlight just doesn't work or the wind is just too harsh, then we just move the garden around. If we want to leave, if they want to expand the event space next year because it's so successful, we could take those crates and put them onto another rooftop. So it's a really interesting method for growing food. No one else has done this in St. Louis, but it's been very successful on the East Coast, so we're learning from them. And from their metrics is just as equally productive as green roof farming. So we look forward to trying it out this year. And it also has a smart irrigation integrated into the system. So all of those spiderly-like vines there, each single crate, and there's 1,200 of them on that roof, each of them is sensored. So it's on 4 different zones, so the irrigation knows when each zone needs to be watered. So there's not going to be too much, there's not going to be too little water. We're going to save water, but our plants are also going to be much more productive because of this. This is a different soil mix than we used on the food roof because we have more structural capacity on this roof, almost twice as much. So this is more of a traditional garden, like pot mix.
How do you figure that out? Like, is it an engineering issue? You look at all of how your actual roof is structured?
Exactly. You need to work with a structural engineer or you need to have access to structural drawings. And really what we're looking for is a pound per square foot for the live load. So once you have that number, we can tell you if it's feasible to grow food on a roof and what systems will work within that constraint. Yes?
I wanted to share that we have a project that we've done on a roof, and we did a crate style like this because we didn't know the structural load capacity.
Ooh, that's dangerous.
But we knew that it had to be at a minimum of the 30 to 50 pounds per square foot, and so we just made sure we didn't go over that, but then we take that all off in the winter so that you have the snow load, so we're not adding to the snow load. Does that make sense?
That does make a lot of sense. So snow load in St. Louis is about 20 pounds per square foot. In other parts of the country, it's very different. So you have to factor that into these structural calculations as well. Should I keep taking questions, or should we wait to the end? OK, I'll take one more. I saw a hand back there. That's a good question.
But if you raise bed gardens, just on is it just way cost prohibitive for that?
Is what cost prohibitive?
Could you use the same sort of design just for a raised bed garden, like mixing the whole rooftop thing with the sensor system, or is that system?
I think if you were doing it on the ground, it's probably cheaper to just build a raised bed out of wood. I think these crates with the smart irrigation were probably $5 each, including soil. So it adds up when you're talking about a large scale. I wouldn't recommend it for a small application. I would go raised beds if you're talking about a backyard garden for sure. OK, so let's talk about some of the benefits of rooftop farming. A lot of these benefits are also benefits of urban agriculture in general. Some of them that I wanted to point out that were more specific to rooftops, we talked about earlier, the water mitigation. Like, there are huge stormwater runoff issues in a lot of our large cities around the country, and flooding occurs. So being able to capture some of that water on our rooftops and holding it in our soil and our plants can be really beneficial. Rooftop farms also decrease heat island effect, improve air quality. They reduce energy consumption inside the buildings, because when you put soil on a rooftop, it really acts as an insulator. So that's another huge benefit. Enhancing biodiversity. If you've walked around downtown St. Louis yet, there's not a whole lot of biodiversity down here. I can tell you when we started the rooftop farm, it was just a dead black roof. There was like nothing living up there. And the day that we started installing soil, like this bumblebee started hanging out with us. And within a week of having soil on that roof, the birds started coming. And then we planted, and then the insects started coming. We have all the same insects on our rooftop farms that you have on the ground. We have a thriving population of praying mantis and ladybugs. Don't know how they got there, but they found us. So it's really important for us to really create a diverse ecosystem on this tiny little roof so that we can have thriving environments for these insects and these pollinators to thrive. We also have chickens, which is why I have a picture of a chicken. We have 4 chickens on the food roof farm, which are just a huge delight. And they're not just there because they're quirky and cool and fun, which we love them to death, they are, but they also complete the ecosystem. They'll eat anything, so there are built-in composters. And of course, we collect their waste and turn it into compost too. We did have bees the first year, but it's such a small space that there were just bees everywhere. And we do tons of field trips and tours, and it just got to be a little too much, and a few people got stung, and we decided maybe we shouldn't keep them right on this rooftop. So we gave them to another local farmer instead. But with that said, once we got rid of the honeybees, all of the native bees came. So we didn't see one native bee the first year when we had honeybees. And as soon as we took them off the roof, we did a study with SLU, St. Louis University, and they actually surveyed 12 native bee species on our food roof last year, which is a pretty big number for an urban environment like this. Economical benefits, creates jobs. We started with 1 employee in 2015, that was me. Now we have 6 employees and 6 part-time work studies from St. Louis University. We also, another benefit is increasing the lifespan of the roof. So you probably wouldn't think this, right? But when you actually cover the rooftop, you're protecting that membrane from the natural elements. So UV rays, hail, all of those things. So the life of the roof should actually last longer, a benefit that a lot of people don't think about. And it increases the market value of buildings as well. And you can talk to our building owners about that. They've definitely witnessed that. But most importantly, the social benefits of farming. So food access, being able to provide nutrient-dense, healthy local food within blocks of where we're growing it is really what this is all about. And being able to engage the people that live in the community, like surrounding that farm, is so important. When we grow food where we live, then people can be a part of it. People can participate in it. People can support more of it. It's also an education platform because it's so accessible to people. Not all rural farms are as easy to get to. So when we have an opportunity, when we're in an urban core, we get people from all over St. Louis and even around the country that come and see it because it's so accessible. You can walk there from here. That's how easy it is. And then we create neighborhood green space for people like me who live in downtown St. Louis, who don't have a balcony or a backyard. This really becomes our backyard. So I wanted to talk a little bit about food insecurity because as a nonprofit, it's really our mission to grow food for people who don't have access to healthy food because it is such a prevalent issue in St. Louis. It's actually 233% higher amount of food deserts in St. Louis than the national average. So it's a real problem here, and a lot of that concentration is right around downtown in North St. Louis where our farms are located. So it just makes sense for us that we supply those people with healthy food options. But we learned pretty early that farming and distribution are two totally different things. So we collaborate to get that done. We work with other organizations that are already doing this work in those neighborhoods with those people who need access to that healthy food to give to them. And one of those partners is St. Louis Metro Market. They converted a full-size city bus into a farmer's market on wheels, and it goes into different food desert neighborhoods, and it sells people this delicious, healthy local food at subsidized costs. And to kind of finish that process out, education is also extremely important. So we collaborate with another nonprofit, Fit and Food Connection, that supplies free fitness, cooking, nutrition, demonstration classes for these neighborhoods as well. So we've found by those partnerships with other organizations, finding out like what each of us does best, if we can collaborate on that, then we can really accelerate our impact and really move forward faster and bring more to people in these neighborhoods. So I would say that collaboration is really key to urban farming, especially when you're such small scale like we are. You really learn to depend on other people and organizations to get things done and to move fast. So another one of our programs revolves around education, getting back to the fact that we're such an accessible farm that we want to engage people in what we're doing. So we started an internship program. It's not a traditional farm apprenticeship program, but we call it our Leadership in Urban Agriculture internship program. And the reason for that is, yes, we're exposing people on how to start growing their own food. They get exposure to different growing methods in urban contexts, but it's really more about giving them leadership skills so that they can go out and be advocates and educators and leaders of this in their communities. So we attract people who are college students all the way up to young professionals. We host tons of field trips and workshops. And then community engagement. So we designed this space so that we could have people there to enjoy it in different ways. And some people will come up for a chef's harvest dinner. Some people come up from yoga or tours or volunteer groups or whatever it may be. But over the course of the year, we give people opportunities to come and experience it in different ways. And last year, we had over 3,000 people come through the Food Roof Farm because of these opportunities. So these are some of the metrics from last year. You can read them yourselves, but basically, everyone wants to know how much food we've grown. So we grew just over 5,000 pounds of food on less than 1/4 of an acre, and that grossed at about almost $30,000. So I think if you scale it up, it's probably comparable to what Earth Dance was doing as well. Plant species we talked about. We have tons of volunteers that come through and help. So that was kind of taking a look back. Our vision for the future is to keep growing more of these so that we can produce more healthy food for the community. And another exciting thing we're doing this year is we've added a cargo bike to our fleet, which we're turning into a mobile farmers market. So that will help us get even deeper into some of these neighborhoods that we're serving and get people more excited about agriculture. And our hope is that this will be so successful that we not only have a network of urban farms moving forward, but we also have a network of bikes to help us get that food around. So if you want to learn more, you can find us online at Urban Harvest STL. Thank you, and so sorry that I transitioned off.